Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question in the Q&As this weekend, which I'm going to flip in here, but I felt that this kind of deserved its own video because this is a fantastic question. It's something a lot of you are going to have to deal with at different points in your life. And he's basically saying, look, I've been running one of your block periodization programs, and I've been doing a bunch of housework lately. I'm basically, I think he was refinishing a bathroom. He's having to do a lot of pushing, pulling with a crowbar. It's leaving him sore, and he's deciding to take a deload. Next workout. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing. We can work on my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this because a lot of you guys at different points in your life and your training are going to be trying to train while you have various manual labor things come up in your life. It might be a new job that involves some manual labor. It might be a new project you start that involves some manual labor. Like I said, redoing your house. Tons of you people, if you're homeowners, you're eventually going to renovate parts of your house, if for no other reason than to turn a profit on it. It might be because you want a nicer bathroom or a nicer kitchen, but for a lot of people, that is a very sound financial investment, because those things increase the value of a house and you get more money back than what you put into those renovations. But they can be a lot of work, and sometimes different projects that are going to be annual things for you. There's going to be so many different things that come up in your life where you have to be dramatically more physically active than you normally are for some reason. Now, when we're talking about chronic things, such as a new full-time job, you adapt to those workloads. And you adapt pretty quickly because that's what the human body does. It adapts to whatever workload that you subject it to. And there was an old analogy a guy used to give. I've seen it written quite a few times online, but it's a perfect example. This guy had gotten a job working as a trash collector. And there's certain people online, a lot of you be like, oh, that guy's a trash collector. But you know what? The guy has a job. Somebody has to do it. And actually, those guys don't always make bad money. You'd be surprised. You have a family to support. But he had said the first time he went out there trying to collect those cans, he was sore, he hurt, he could barely walk by the end of the day. And he watched all these other guys who'd been doing it a while just coast through it like it was nothing. And it was just so physically demanding that he hurt for days. But by the end of 2 or 3 weeks of doing it, it felt like nothing. There was no workload, no problem at all. He did it with ease, just like everyone else who had been doing it for long periods of time. And it was just not a problem, and he didn't get sore or anything anymore. And that's the thing. When you adapt to a workload of any type, you're going to stop getting sore. It doesn't matter whether it's something in the gym or manual labor. And that's a good thing because soreness is an indicator that you're doing something that your body is very displeased about. And even a good training program, you should stop getting sore eventually. But when you're doing manual labor, obviously you need to deload when you start any new manual labor project. You're simply going to have to accept that with your training, particularly if you're training really hard. Now, if you run a very lax, laid-back style of training because you're just somewhat fitness-oriented, you don't have serious goals, it's probably not going to be a big problem. But if you're someone who's going in and you're, able to deadlift 500 pounds, you're squatting 350 pounds for reps, things like that, you're going to find that any major change in your lifestyle, anything from a manual labor job to a new project, is going to cause you recovery problems because it takes 2 to 3 weeks to adapt to something like that. So, if you started it as a new career, just like that story, the guy that's always republished, the guy doing the work as a trash collector, or if in the UK, a rubbish collector, it took him 3 weeks to adapt, and after that, he was fine. So if any of you guys start a new job like that, a very physically demanding job, it's going to take you 3 weeks to adapt. And if you quit doing the job for 6 weeks and you come back, you're going to go through the same 3-week process every single time because you've detrained to the training stimulus. Because what you need to remember, your body doesn't know the difference between work and training. It only knows what you have stimulated with what type of workload and what stresses you subjected to. It doesn't care whether you label it a profession or working out. It doesn't care. It only adapts or detrains because you stop doing it. You remove the training stimulus, in this case picking up the trash cans all day, you detrain to it. You detrain those performance elements. You start doing it again, you're going to get sore again. So consistency is everything. But if you start a new job like that, you're probably going to need to deload your training. Let's be honest, it doesn't have to be trash collector. It could be construction work. It could be a sales job where if you've had a desk job and you get a sales job where you're on your feet on concrete and walking for 8 hours a day, you know what? You're going to have to physically adapt to that. Your training in the gym is going to need to adjust. You're going to need up to 3 weeks to adapt. And if you push it and you decide to be stupid and you say, well, I'm just going to keep training through it, I'm going to push through it. Well, be ready for reduced performance at work, be ready for irritability, pain, and possibly higher chances of injury, or even a higher chance of overtraining. But once you adapt, and you've adapted to that workload and you've adapted to that chronic stress, then you can go back to your normal training. But when you start a new manual labor project, such as something like this, construction on your house, it's going to last a couple weeks. You're going to get sore from it because you're going to move your body and muscles in ways and in workloads. And in workloads they're not used to. Because if you're not used to, what I do right here, silly as this looks, if you come in and you started hand loading as much as I do every day, you're actually going to get sore from doing it. If you've never done this and you're not used to reaching up and pulling a lever and working all this stuff, your hands are going to get sore, your elbows are going to get sore. But if you've been doing it a little while, you'll adapt. Any projects like that. So if you're not used to pulling that crowbar and lifting all that stuff that you're lifting and moving and setting tile and everything you're doing to renovate your bathroom or your kitchen, you're going to get sore from it. And that fatigue that it's going to create is going to predispose you to higher injuries if you start pushing yourself hard in the gym. It's a bad idea. In addition to that, no one wants to be more sore. Anyone who says, oh, I love being sore, I love soreness from the gym, basically you probably have a mental issue. If you actually enjoy the pain of it, and you actually enjoy it and love it, there's possibly something wrong with you. You need to go see a therapist. I'm just saying, most people don't enjoy pain. They enjoy it. They're willing to accept it if they associate it with something positive. But in this case, pain from training isn't actually anything positive. It's oftentimes a sign that your training programming is less than perfect. You shouldn't associate it with gains. And if that's what you're doing, I understand, because you're associating it as a sacrifice you have to make to get something you want. But if you just enjoy the pain for the sake of pain, I mean, you don't need to go to a gym for that. You can just hit yourself in the foot with a hammer a few times every day. Problem solved. If you just love pain. So when people say they love the pain, if they really mean that, they're just kind of crazy. There's something wrong with them. Now, if because they associate it with something positive, that's different. But they shouldn't be, because it's not actually true. But that point aside, you're just going to cause yourself extra pain needlessly. And what you're going to find if you take that time to deload, you might find that your work capacity improves. You know what? Because you've subjected your body to a new training stimulus. You know what? You know how we always run everything in periodization in 3-week blocks? Well, your body adapts in 3-week blocks. So you might actually detrain your weight training and then train yourself in a 3-week block to all this manual labor and train a whole new training stimulus. And you might actually find that when you go back to your normal training, things like your work capacity improve. You might find that your training benefited from it in some way. You might find that certain muscles in your body that might have been weak links before have gotten stronger. Maybe your grip strength from all the pulling and picking stuff up and laying tile, your grip strength might improve or something. You might actually get some actual benefits from it in terms of your training. So go ahead and do your deload and just let that new training stimulation, because you're doing it for a reason, either as a work or to renovate your house or some project going on. You've got a reason for doing it. Let your training deload for a bit. You know what? It can take a back seat. If you deload and you're putting all this other physical stress on your body, you're not going to lose muscle. I promise you, you're not going to lose gains from it. You don't usually lose gains on a deload. In fact, even if you stop giving a training stimulus, it takes 2 weeks for a muscle to actually start losing size from you stopping training it. But you're still deloading it, and you're still doing physical labor. I promise you, you won't lose gains from it. Take the deload, get used to what you're doing, and when you're done with the project, or you've adapted to the new work, go back to your normal training. Go to your normal training. It's going to be fine. You're going to be better for it in the long term. It's going to make that new adaptation more manageable. It's going to keep your injury rates lower. And like I said, in some cases, you might even find that you got some physical benefit from it. Not every time, but you might. But I promise you that if you go in and you push your normal training to the limits, if anything, you're just going to push yourself into overreaching. You're going to cause yourself to get inflammation that's unnecessary, tendinitis, potentially all sorts of problems. There's no need to do that. People need to remember the human body is not indestructible. It's an amazing, adaptable machine. And if you push it to just a little bit, you just push it a little harder previously than you did before, just small changes, the human body can adapt almost indefinitely. It is an amazing machine. But when you push it incorrectly and you push it beyond its limits in the wrong way, like any other machine the human body can break. So take this time to deload. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.